Welcome to Anime Out of Context, a comedy review show hosted by a basement dweller who grew up scrounging terrible fan subs on sketchy websites prior to the convenience of modern streaming, alongside a willfully ignorant soul whose only knowledge of anime comes from the shows forced upon him here. This show will contain spoilers, incorrect information, and copious amounts of adult language. Our hosts are not experts on any topic, and everything they say should be taken with a grain of salt. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I've recently been banned from 3 out of the 4 Egg Fests in Florida.
I'm Sean Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase.
Remington, can we go the rest of the episode without mentioning Eggfest, you think?
Hey, Yukes, I'm going to Egg Fest, Yukes.
Well, you just proved me wrong. Fantastic. Wonderful.
You know, I couldn't help but shove 2 bits that, I find funny and very few other people do. Just smush them together. Joey Wheeler's favorite event is, of course, Eggfest. If you are wildly confused, if you're looking at the title of this week's episode, and you're a new listener and you're like, when do they talk about it? In a moment, I promise. Or if you're a frequent listener and you're like, when did Eggfest become a thing? Go check out our Given episode.
Yep.
It'll somewhat explain it. Am I gonna
Hey,
keep
Yugs,
trying
I'm
to
here
make
to
it
insult
happen?
the LGBTQ community again.
Hey, I do not. The episode isn't up yet. We haven't gotten feedback, but I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it's offensive.
I don't. I
nonetheless-
hope it's not offensive. That's what I. Just find our ignorance charming. Find our ignorance
I will
charming.
keep trying to make Eggfest happen.
Oh, Jesus
So,
Christ. Well-
will it ever be funny? No. Does that make it funny in of itself?
No.
Fuck.
Transcendently, no. But Remington, the main reason I was hoping Eggfest wouldn't come up was because I felt that, in the sake of fairness, we should continue doing episodes about Pride Month.
Eggfest.
And I was hoping deep in my loins that it wouldn't come to that. But unfortunately, when your opening line is about the one thing I didn't want us to talk about, it's fallen a bit on deaf ears, it seems.
God, how does he do it? How does he always have such great comedic timing with everything he does? I don't know. It's just a great talent. I was also I was much further away from the microphone for that sentence, and it felt uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, I know how much you like having it right in your face, Rem, but that is irrelevant to the podcast as nobody can see what you're doing. Thank God.
We should probably talk about anime. I mean, our Given episode was a bit of a mess.
Yes.
At least part 1 was.
Yes.
And right now, we're repeating a theme.
Which is what I was trying to avoid. So instead, I'm going to just jump straight into the anime this time around. Because, Remington, today we're going to... last week we covered a Shonen Ai anime. So I figured, only fair, let's cover a Shoujo Ai anime.
Hell yeah.
Come on, Rem, you can do it. Use your context clues. What are Shonen Ai and Shoujo Ai?
Well, my assumption is that I just edited that one out, Dylan. It was real bad.
I think I just had an aneurysm out of pure stupidity, Remington. My Christ. So to answer your clear ignorance, Remington, shonen, which is boy, and I is love. So therefore, boy love BL shonen I. Therefore, shoujo I is...
I told Dylan to cut it out, but then
Then you just came back in. You just came back in with it. You just came back in with it. I get the joke, Rem. I do. I just don't know if it's appropriate.
I'm sorry. One sec. Hey Dylan, could you cut that out? All right, Sean, ask me again.
Okay, Rem. So if shonen I is boys love, then shoujo I must be.
Dylan, could you add a laugh track? Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the lovely ovation. Thank you all.
People are gonna start thinking that we're not allies, and this is problematic.
I don't think that I'm being problematic right now.
Rem, you have to realize we're both straight white men. Anything we say could be misconstrued as problematic. It's why we have to be careful.
I can, okay, well, then let me acknowledge that from, that I've heard from, most aren't too into it. Some are, but it's mostly a porn thing, so,
Okay, I think that covers us. Okay.
but I think also the laugh track really,
Really sells it, yeah?
really sells it.
Yeah. Okay, well, jumping back into the anime, Rem, before this gets too controversial already.
Oh yeah, that's what this is about.
Yeah, this is about anime. Like, the second you start mentioning is where I'm gonna really draw the line. See, now you're leaving me silent. God damn you, Remington. God damn you to hell.
What I love is like, to explain things too much. Sean and I generally have like a good grasp of like what the other is going to do, right? We have a good grasp of like what the other one is trying to pull.
Yes.
And so, what I just did was set him up perfectly for me breaking the silence, but then I just didn't.
Yep, nope.
And it would.
Nope. And instead you made me look
weirdly,
like more of an asshole, which is not what you're supposed to do in improv. You're supposed to make the other person look better than you, damn you. Which apparently we failed at for 3 years. So, without further ado, fucking, like, nearly 8 minutes into the episode, Remington, the anime we're gonna be talking about today is one called Yagate Kimi ni Naru, or simply Bloom into You.
Alright, yeah, cool.
This is how it's gonna be, huh? Usually,
Usually
I'd get like...
It's one of those days,
I'd get a both of us are incredibly punchy. For a little peek behind the kimono as we part things a little bit, both of us just got done with a lot of recording and a lot of real life stuff, so we're feeling a little bit punchy.
I'm having a great time here.
I'm glad you are, Rem, because...
And I think that our audience who belong in the LGBTQ plus, that they're having a great time too.
I hope so. I so hope so.
They know everything I say is out of love and endearment. I am not afraid because I love them and I know they love me.
Do they? Do they?
They adore me, Sean. Like, there's the Billy on the Street bit, like, do gay people know John Oliver or whatever? And you know, who knows for that, but now's when I tell you, I am big in the community.
Lesbians love Remington. It's our new campaign.
Lesbians love Remington. Which, you know, I embrace it. I support it. I embrace it. I love them. They love me. And there's a great sense of camaraderie amongst us all.
Yeah.
What's happening? I'm sorry. Is this
This is
Hey,
a
Dylan,
podcast about anime, Rem. This is where we talk about anime shows and we have a discussion and we
maybe we
critique
just
them
don't.
usually. At this point, I'm wondering if we should even, keep going. I think
genuinely this might be the first episode we just have to like dump.
it is very
And
possible.
do
We'll
over
leave
it.
it up to our editor, though.
Yeah, Dylan, do we have to re-record this whole bit? Let us know.
If not, I'm just gonna jump into the synopsis and you can go in from there. So.
Yeah, you should probably put a rush on that, Sean. We've been here for a hot minute.
Yeah,
and, we've made no progress.
and I wonder whose fault that is. But at any rate, okay. So the anime we're talking about today, Remington, is called Bloom into You, and it is a lovely little show about a blossoming relationship and coming to know who you are as a person, as well as learning about yourself. The exploration of love and romance at a young age. So our story is about our main character, Yu Koito. She has always loved romantic shoujo manga, and let's be honest, who doesn't? As well as, the lyrics of love songs, romantic poetry. She just loves the romance genre as a whole.
Sure.
And her whole, young life, she's been like, oh, I can't wait till it happens to me, which is a little painfully relatable to a lot of people. She's just hoping that the, as she puts it, the wings of love to sprout and send her heart aflutter. It's a very fluffy show, if you couldn't tell based on the language.
Yeah, something gave it away.
Yeah, just a little bit. And one day, she gets just that. One of her classmates declares his love for her. And when it happens, to her shock and surprise, it doesn't do anything for her, like, at all. She was expecting a big, grandiose moment of romantic flutter, the shoujo manga moment where there are flowers surrounding her and hearts in the eyes and just, oh, this is where my romance story begins. But when it finally happens, she's just kind of, I see about the whole thing.
I will say, I think that's definitely like a universal like love experience. I feel like a lot of young people, you see all these depictions of love, and then you feel it a handful of times, and often like it'll hit you hard, but sometimes it'll just be much more mundane than you think. And just like trying to figure out your own feelings and like the nature of love and relationships, that's real complicated because it's just not how it works in media.
Yep, and that's kind of where our story begins, with her trying to figure out, hey, wait a minute, why is this that way? I think I understand romance, but apparently I don't know how to feel the romance, which is kind of disturbing when you base a lot of the media you consume and a lot of like your personal views and values on a subject that you don't actually fully understand. And she's just having a rough go of it. And then she meets the lovely student council president, Toko Nanami. And she's in the middle of rejecting a confession as well. Because she still hasn't given an answer to the boy because she doesn't know how to respond, quite frankly. So throughout this whole process of trying to figure out how do I do this, she comes across a strikingly beautiful young girl in the same situation. And like properly and maturely turning down a confession to the person's face right then and there.
Yeah.
So, of course, enamored by the maturity and the ease at which she did it, she approaches and asks for help. And thus the story of their relationship unfolds.
Heck yeah.
So I feel like that was a very competent synopsis, personally.
I do. I feel more prepared than ever between your synopsis and our great insight beforehand. I feel well prepared.
God, Remington, Dylan's gonna have such a chop suey time with this part, but that's okay because he's a lovely editor and he can make magic happen.
Or he will decide to keep it all in because he thinks we nailed it.
Yeah.
In case we all fucked up, in case Dylan kept it in and we did not in fact nail it, fuck.
Yeah, well, we'll have to salvage ourselves in the second half of the anime. Because Remington, I think without further ado, do you have any questions before going into it?
I better not.
No, you shouldn't. I felt it coming. Rem. Don't do it.
But when is Eggfest?
So without further ado, folks, let's go jump into some Bloom Into You.
Previously,
They look great in tight leather outfits. I mean, call me traditionalist, but a good chocolate chip cookie is better than sex.
up next.
I'm gonna have a brief moment of like vulnerability on the podcast. I got emotionally called out a little bit.
Now, back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back after consuming 5 whole episodes of Yagate Kimi ni Naru, or Bloom Into You. And hopefully, the second half of this podcast is going to be much more tolerable than the first. If we can even call the first half a half, because I think Dylan might have done a lot of chop suey on it.
Yeah, well, let's just say that whatever you as the listeners got as the part 1, somehow, like, don't get me wrong, it's still going to be a dumpster fire. I'm sure you would agree. But it is way better than whatever it was because of the editing power of Dylan. And, I can't help but feel a little bit guilty about part 1, Sean.
You think? Really? It's almost like it was about 80% your fault.
I'm not gonna point any fingers. Who can say whose fault it was or not? But I will say that after seeing the show, I can't help but feel that we have done it a bit of a disservice with that part 1 of the podcast.
Really, Remington? I I wonder if that could be true, because it's not like this is one of our most requested shows of this genre, and the shit show of a part 1 we put them through probably turned them off of our podcast forever.
So, if you're still listening, first thanks. We appreciate it.
Please find
You're
our,
a trooper.
Please find our ignorance charming. I have to say it on a regular basis these days, but if you don't, you're gonna have a bad time.
But I'm gonna once again I'm gonna be upfront because I would encourage people, if you are at all interested in watching this, watch it before you listen to the rest of the episode, because Bloom Into You is one of the most emotionally nuanced shows we have ever covered at all.
That is pretty high praise, Rem.
Yeah. And then there are bits that like resonated with me in particular, but we'll get to those.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
There's episode 3, I get called the fuck out a little bit, and that was fun. But you know, so I would definitely recommend that people check it out. It is much more than the shoujo you would expect, which is interesting because I suspect I noticed that every episode had 2 different titles. Right. Mm-hmm. It was like cut in half. It was given, which seems to indicate to me that this came from possibly like short form manga or something like that.
It is a manga original source. And some of the chapters can be a bit on the short side, but no, it's pretty standard.
Okay.
Pretty standard.
Fair enough.
Good little manga affair.
Yeah. So we start with episode 1, and we start with. Oh man, I don't know what name to call our main characters, because they use both their first and last name a lot, and that's like fine because it works within the settings, but it's more difficult for me to decide on one.
Let's go with you and Toko. How about that?
Yeah, those are the easier ones.
Yeah, because you'll be able to pronounce them properly.
Yeah. So with you, we open that she's yearning for a shoujo romance, right?
Aren't we all?
And interestingly, how the show begins is the show sort of pulls a very subtle bait and switch with how it views romance. Because with this kind of opening, you're or at least I assumed that this was like a thesis statement for how Bloom Into You views romance. Romance is something that swipes you off your feet, that is just undeniable. It's that shoujo kind of feeling, right? Which I think, personally, is naive, a bit juvenile. It's not how it actually works, which can cause some difficulties for many people. And for a while, I was like, does the show actually believe that? And I don't think it actually does. It presents that as sort of the emotional thesis statement, and then it sort of tears it apart as things go on.
Oh, it's almost like romance doesn't work like shoujo manga.
Yeah, but it doesn't open with that. It doesn't open with being like, oh yeah, the ideals, the unreachable ideals of shoujo, of romance novels. Very, very reminiscent of the great literary classic Madame Bovary, which is very worthwhile, but also the most boring book I've ever read. And
don't worry, I feel the same way about something like Lord of the Flies. You know, it's got importance, but my God, does it suck.
But like it could have opened as if like, oh, those are unreachable, but instead it's just like, hey, wow, shoujo love. That's what we're all striving for, huh? And it never outright says no to that. It opens with, wow, wouldn't that be great? And then it just shows us that that's just not how things work. And it's up to us to sort of come to the realization, not just for ourselves, but like in the emotional reality of the show, which was a fascinating little journey. But as we continue with you, there's a bit of chat about like what club to join, and eventually you ends up joining sort of the student council as a low-ranking, just like busy worker, right?
A campaign manager of sorts.
Well, not yet.
Well, not yet,
but
yeah.
Right now, just a flyer poster, basically. And on her way to the council, that's when, as we mentioned in part 1, she sees this guy get rejected by this girl, and the girl is Toko. Sees Toko reject a guy, and Yu is like, oh my god, that's incredible, because she struggled to, like, a guy asked her out in middle school, and she still hasn't given an answer. And so, turns out Toko is also on the council, so they walk there, which is just like a shack in the woods.
That's where I like to put my seat of government.
Why does every Japanese high school have a weird-ass shack? Like, every single one that we cover, it's like, all right, so now we're going to go to the dilapidated shack, either in the woods or just out of school borders, you know? Why? What the fuck?
Look,
I don't get it.
you know, different countries have different cultures, Remington, and you gotta respect the choices that people make. You know, it's not like here in America where we can just afford to have extra spaces. No. We just gotta, you know, sometimes a school needs a dilapidated shack for its main characters to go to. You know, you can't have everything set in the main building of the school. Otherwise, it's not as interesting, Rem.
Yeah, now I understand why, for the first few months of the podcast, we just had to record in a dilapidated shack. I was like, why don't we just go in your house and record? And you were like, no, you'll understand a few years from now. And now I finally do.
Yeah, no, because I wanted us to have that nice protagonist after-school club status.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact that we were both adults when we started the show kind of made that difficult. So, you know, I had to improvise. And so what if a garden shed isn't the best recording environment? I feel like the very high risk of getting tetanus on the rusty garden tools really added to the comedy.
It added to the tension, you know?
Yeah.
But one thing I do appreciate, I expected Toko, since she's like so able to reject absolutely everybody, that she might be a little bit more like cold or a little bit more of that boss bitch archetype. No, she's just like real positive and pleasant at almost all times. She's just also emotionally mature enough to reject people, honestly, which is so nice. This is one of the only anime romances where the vast majority of the characters are pretty emotionally mature and not perfect at all, but it's like, yeah, okay, I understand, like, you're still in high school, so you're not perfect, but all of you guys are trying, and that just feels so much more authentic and interesting.
You're really regretting the first part of this podcast, aren't you?
Oh man, it is very unfortunate. You know, folks, I don't know what I'm getting myself into in the part ones. So sometimes you have this sort of disparity where in part 1, oh, so wacky, look at all the zaniness. And then part 2, it's like, wow, how emotionally raw and honest. And I can't say that it won't happen in the future. It almost certainly will. It's just how it goes sometimes, y'all.
I'm just hoping it's not going to be, 3 episodes in a row. That's what I'm hoping for. I tried to make these special. I really did. But I'm just hoping that once we get back into the swing of things, it's not.
Something tells me that the next week's episode, it will be zany, but more acceptably zany. So, I got a hunch. I got an idea. This is when we spoil. We've already recorded next week's episode. We're doing it out of order. Everything's fucked. Anyway, so, but I like the emotional maturity. So they go to the council. They chat. Yu and Toko, they stay afterwards a little bit. They've gone to the council a few times. Like, there's a few just like time skips where it's just like a few days pass, etc. Which is nice. It keeps the pacing up.
Yeah, and sometimes not a lot happens when you're at school. Like,
yeah, it feels right because it's not like every day something crazy is happening. It's just like, yeah, so this is sort of the schedule for this little while. All right, cool. While at the same time, it's not like it's just exclusively jumping from event to event. The pacing feels very authentic once again, and I'm going to keep using that word because it's such a proper word for this show.
And your vocabulary only has so many, after all.
I have like 10 words in my vocabulary, so be lucky for what you get.
Yeah, he has to have a thesaurus. A thesaurus? I can speak English. I
We're
am
so
an
good at
audio
this.
podcasting professional. God damn it. He always keeps a thesaurus on hand when we record, just so that he can broaden the scope a little bit.
Amazingly, after one of these, Yu finally asks for help on how to reject people. She gets a call from the guy, and she rejects him. And the guy takes it in stride. He's like, well, thanks for letting me know. And then they're sort of chatting and holding hands for a moment. And then, amazingly, in episode 1, Toko pronounces her love for you, which was unexpected.
I left that out in the part 1 for a reason.
Yeah, like you assume it's going to be. First of all, I and I assume most other people assume that you is going to be the one who falls for Toko, because Toko is presented as almost like this ideal girl, right? And Toko and you is searching for an ideal shoujo relationship. So I believe that most people will assume that you is going to be the one to fall for Toko. So the fact that Toko suddenly falls for you, and it's like in episode 1 so quickly, it's a little bit of a surprise. And you initially just sort of like is like, oh, maybe she didn't mean it that way. You know, the just gals being pals. Which from what I've heard from my female friends who are bisexual or lesbian, that is a common confusion of like, oh man, but like, does she like me like that? I mean, we've made out, but like, does she? And apparently that's just like very common. Yeah, and then there's a little just like post-episode epilogue dealio where Yu becomes the campaign manager for Toko's school president campaign. So yeah, quite a lot in that first episode. Quite a bit. Episode 2, we open up with a chat with Yu and her two friends, who I will call Tall Friend and Short Friend. So, the Tall Friend and Short Friend haven't been super relevant to like the main plot, but they've still added quite a bit to the atmosphere, the relationship dynamics, and they feel like characters in and of themselves, which is neat.
Which, yet you still did not give them the justification of memorizing their names.
They're not important enough for me to know their names, but I appreciate them being here, Sean.
Oh, Jesus Christ. If I'm not mistaken,
I
I think you're talking about Koyomi and Sayaka.
Yeah, is it Sayaka?
I could be off, honestly.
I thought Sayaka was the one that we then get introduced to, who is Toko's like best friend.
Oh, yes. Sorry. See, now I'm mixing them up. God damn it.
See? Get fucked, loser. It's okay if I'm ignorant. You're supposed to know.
Well, you know.
But yeah, Sayaka is Toko's best friend, who is definitely crushing on Toko, and is a little bit jealous. And they could have like played up the jealousy for drama, but once again, they just played up for like relational and emotional depth, where Sayaka is like expresses her jealousy about how close Toko and you have been getting. And Toko is like, I get it, but like we're still close, and like we trust each other. We're solid, you and me. And Sayaka's like, yeah, all right, you are correct. And I appreciate that. Like, once again, emotional maturity, even in the face of difficulties. And it makes all the characters so much more likable when they're not all absolute emotional dipshits. Like, I enjoy all of them, because all of them are reasonable people.
Isn't that why you fell in love with me, Remington?
Sure. Yeah.
You're doing wonders for my self-confidence, Remington. I'm just here to tell you. Really soaring through the clouds. I'm on cloud 9 right now.
So, at one point in this episode, you and Toko, they're walking home, and they talk about like the conversation, being like, "Hey, so you saying that you're in love with me, like, but like as gal pals though?" And they have a moment at the train tracks. Toko stops, pulls you in for a kiss, and is like, "No, not gal pals."
That's
like that.
That's a really good way to confirm that, I would say.
Yeah. And so you get a kiss where both of them are like, well, shit, that just happened. And once again, a few days later, they're like, hey, So, like, should we talk about that? Yeah, let's talk about that. Which, once again, they could have done the bullshit trope of just letting it awkwardly be there in the background, but no, the characters are like, hey, it's been on my mind lately. And very interestingly, you is like, I don't feel the same way about you, and I didn't hate the kiss, but I didn't really feel anything during the kiss either. And once again, very, very fascinating. They have a moment like with an interview where they end up holding hands a little bit, which flusters Toko. And they chat, and it's like, and when they chat, Yu is getting ready to sort of reject Toko, but then Toko's like, hey, I get it. You're not in love with me. And I'm totally okay with that, as long as you're okay that I have feelings for you, and we can just continue as we are. And that's such an interesting dynamic. And, like, it's one that I, like, in Yu's position, that I am a little bit too familiar with of like, I appreciate that you are super into me. You're amazing. I don't know if I feel the same way about you, and certainly not to that level. Like, I've been in Yu's position too many times, and I don't know if I've ever seen it represented properly. It's very weird. Very weird.
So should I help you out? Should I talk to your girlfriend? Do we need to have a conversation?
Oh, God. I am not talking about my current girlfriend by any means. If she's listening to this, she is fantastic. I love and appreciate her.
I mean, we can
Simply
talk.
talking.
I mean, it's fine. Like,
Oh, God.
like you said, the show, like, being mature and talking about these things is important, Remington.
Oh, God. I have had other relationships / potential relationships that were much more in this type of mold, which is interesting because although in this regard I am super like you, as we get to episode 3, it's very much I am Toko, and episode 3 I labeled as the one that I get called the fuck out.
Oh, Remington, give us the details. Give us the nitty-gritty details, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, essentially, like, this episode, there's some stuff with tall and short, that's pleasant, but once again, not super relevant. Then, Toko shows up, gives a souvenir from a trip to Yu. Everything's pleasant. But then the real, all that stuff is nice. That's about half the episode that I'm just glossing over a bit. It's real nice, doesn't push things forward too much, but it does add to things. But the relevant moment is they're preparing to give their speeches for becoming student council president, right? And campaign manager and the president to be both give speeches. So there's a handful of candidates there. They're preparing. Yu sees that Toko is a little bit nervous, though playing it off as if they're not. And is like, hey, let's go outside. And then is like, yeah, I didn't do this for me. I did this for you. And then they have a conversation that essentially Toko talks about how they didn't like how they used to be. And so they just worked on being / appearing as sort of like the ideal person, right? And everyone treats them as if they are special. And they like that, but there's an incongruity of everyone like feeling like you're special, and then you got like good old imposter syndrome, basically. It's like, I might just let all these people down, blah, blah, blah. And then like the speeches are given, and while Yu is giving this lovely speech all about how amazing Toko is, she's also like, yo, but Toko isn't as special or like perfect as they seem to be to so many people. And in the future we'll see that Toko is like a little bit even awkward at times.
A little.
And the awkwardness comes out, and oh man, I resonated a little bit too much with Toko in episode 3. Oh God. It was a hell of an episode for me, Sean.
It almost kind of mirrors the way that this whole episode has gone.
Yeah, it's whoo-wee.
Just a little backwards, you know?
View me with the silly episode 1, or part 1 of the episode rather. View me like that. That's easier. That's simpler.
He's just the
But-
goofy,
oh,
cynical guy.
man.
Definitely not the guy with complex emotions that were directly attacked with a natural 20 critical hit to the heart.
Like, oh my god. And oh man, okay. I guess this is gonna be weird. I'm gonna have a brief moment of like vulnerability on the podcast.
Whoa,
which
whoa,
normally I know. Normally I shy away from it because I think sort of like, who gives a shit?
I give a shit, Remington. Think of this as your free therapy session. Just talk straight to me. I'll put on a mustache. We'll get a cigar. It's just a cigar, but it will be a cigar, and we can just hash this out. We can tell me how you truly feel.
I'm gonna do this sort of very, very abridged, but like Sean, as you know, I am known for being an extremely ambitious individual who also, especially when I first meet people, I give a very strong impression.
You could say that.
People remember me, they talk about me, it's very weird. They put me on a strange little pedestal that I never fully understand. And it feels nice, it feels pleasant, but feels wildly undeserved. But it's a constant thing. But it's like, I don't know, man. When Toko is here talking all about that, and it's like, yeah, it feels nice to like for people to think that you're special and different, and for you to make such an impression on them, but also so yeah, this show has resonated with me in very specific ways that doesn't happen with almost any other show. So that's been interesting. Anyway, let's keep going.
So I think
let's-
what this means, I do believe that these complex feelings that you have directly correlate with your unresolved feelings with your unborn sister.
Oh, yes. You found me out, Doctor. All right, walls going back up. Cynical
Gotta
anti-weed.
rebuild that sturdy exterior. Bring up those tsundere walls of Remington. Let's bring it forward. It's just going to be cold, calculating, and critical from here on out. No more goofs. We've gone too much to the soft, squishy thing within, and we've got to lock that shit away. So let's talk about the cute, emotional girl love show, Rem.
Yeah. So episode 4, there's some like plans for Toko wins. She wins, as everyone assumed that she would. No surprising twist or anything. It's like, yeah, she was the favorite and she won. That makes sense. Episode 4, there's the council talks about the school festival and maybe doing a play or something. They do some paperwork. Toko and Yu stay late. They end up kissing, where Yu is like, I'm down to kiss, but also I still don't think I love you. Which is, it's fascinating because I want to make it clear. It's not that Yu is a tsundere. It's not that she's saying, oh, no, but actually is feeling yes. It's that she's interested, but not feeling it.
Yeah, like she's leaning more kudere if you're going to give her a dere type than anything.
Yeah, it's like she's interested, but she doesn't feel anything, and she wants to feel more than she does. Like, she wants to care on the same level that Toko does. She just doesn't. And while they're doing that, one of the other council members, Maki, sort of sees and is like, oh shit, stuff's going down. Maki will later have a conversation with you in this episode being like, hey, yo, so I just want you to know I did see, but I'll keep silent. And we get some backstory on Maki that's essentially like, he just enjoying being a spectator and helping out where he can. Not super intrusive.
Not a creepy kind of
about
spectator,
anything.
like as in
Yeah,
just
no,
like
just-
a casual observer. We do not
Yeah,
mean that
like
he...
people watching. Yeah.
We don't mean that he's like in the corner of every shot going like, yes, please.
Yeah, no, it's more wholesome. It's just like, oh, good for them. I hope things work out between them. It's like that, right?
Yes.
Um,
I want to emphasize that this is not a creepy show.
yeah. Episode 5, once again, pretty straightforward. You got some like midterm stuff. Short wrote a novel. you have some studying, but library studying with Toko and you, which eventually as midterms get closer, the library's too full, so they go to Yu's house, which Toko is like, oh my word, I am in her house. Right, just very flustered, and apparently Southern. Then...
Because as we all know, all Japanese schoolgirl lesbians take on a southern accent when embarrassed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that joke can stay in. Dylan, you should probably cut that joke. That was a bad joke.
They sort of stay, like, Toko gets real flustered, and Yu is like, it's okay that you're flustered, but once again, I am not. Like, and it's so interesting, because it's so specific, but I have been in this position, and I know how, like, complex it is, because it's not a lack of interest. The interest is there, but the feelings aren't as much. It's a very interesting, unique dynamic that this show captures very well. And this episode ends with Toko getting a cheesecake recipe from Yu's sister, because Yu loves cheesecake.
I mean, who doesn't, though? I mean, come on.
Oh, man.
Like,
frankly, when I saw this moment, I was offended that you've never made me cheesecake to show your love for me.
I mean, I've bought you a pizza, Remington.
Oh God, we're back to that. That's a Twitch saga. We can't. Have we even talked about the pizzas? Oh God.
Pizza
hey,
on the podcast?
Tune into our Twitch to figure out what the fuck we're talking about, or our Twitter. Hey, it's everywhere except right here. Anyway,
yeah,
how does he do it? So subtle, so casual.
But let me just put it to you this way, Remington, and anybody who happens to be listening to this, all like 6 of you, because we lost all of them in the first half.
Yeah.
If you want if you want to seduce me or trick me into your suspicious white van, just show up with the cheesecake, and I think that'll work.
how can one resist?
Like, it's just the miracle food.
What kind of cheesecake? You going strawberry cheesecake? You going basic bitch cheesecake? Going a little chocolate cheesecake?
See, like, I like a good tuxedo cheesecake. So, you know, it's got a little bit of that vanilla creaminess, but a little bit of chocolate for bitterness, and maybe like a coffee dusting would be kind of nice. You know, I just like a little bit of variety in my cheesecake, you know? Because, I mean, while New York style cheesecake is really, really good, and especially depending what toppings you throw on, actually mixing up the formula and going a bit more interesting with it is a real surefire way to get you in. This has been our new cheesecake review podcast, the Cheesecake Cast, and we will be back next week with more cake content, as it were.
Perfect.
But more about the anime, Rem, because there's...
I don't know if there's a lot more to say. We've covered the 5 episodes. I got emotionally called out a little bit, both for how I engage in romance, but also just how I exist as a person. It's been a journey. I would strongly recommend that people check this out.
Well, then I suppose the next question to ask you is, any idea what the MAL score for this show could possibly be?
Oh, see, okay, so the show isn't horny, which will lose it some points. It shouldn't lose it some points, but the weebs. But it's also, like, really good. All right, I'm going to split the difference between my 2 possible guesses, and I'm going to say 8 even.
A nice even 8, huh?
Yep. There's a part of me that thinks it could be a bit higher, part of me that thinks it could be a bit lower. Just splitting the difference, going right in the middle, going 8.
And before I give you the answer, where would you personally put it? Because this clearly has had a resonant effect on you.
I think that this show, it's probably like a 7.5 to an 8. For my personal ranking, although with the asterisk of some moments hit me like a sack of bricks to the eyes.
Because that's where usually people get hit
that
with
common
sacks of
saying,
bricks.
you know, that common saying, sack of bricks to the eyes.
Oh my Christ! So really, the bricks truly fell from your eyes at that point.
Yeah.
Well, Rem, you're actually not too far off. Weirdly enough, not a super high user review on MAL. It only has 88,200 ratings, which is really low considering how good it is, and it's sitting nice and pretty at a 7.92.
Oh, guys, check this out. Do it. It's like, oh man.
It is.
I'll be honest, I guess if you're looking for the basic anime romance tropes, Like, you're not gonna find them here, but that's what I love about this show.
Yeah, some of the most negative reviews I read on this show were that nothing happens and it's boring.
Oh, God.
Which, if
I don't know. I guess I've always been so engrossed in, like, the humanity of things, as I've talked about before. And this, it just explodes with humanity and emotional sincerity.
Yeah, no, so people who make reviews like that are kind of missing the point of the show, unfortunately.
Like, don't get me wrong, if you want your standard, like, tsundere, oh no, I don't like you, but I really do, and that goes on for 29 episodes, and then another season of the exact same, sure, that'll be more dramatic and crazy, and there'll be a lot more hijinks. But if you just want, like, some emotionally nuanced and complex and mature characters engaging, like, this is the most invested I've been in possibly any anime romance. There might be some that beat this one, but I was very invested. And a part of that is, like, the stakes aren't ridiculously high, but I care about them because they feel real.
And it helps you really deeply connect with your inner soft squishy thing, which, Rem...
I've already been vulnerable this episode. I am as stoic as a bag of bricks, possibly to the eyes.
Just a whole Home Alone 2 to the face.
Here, one sec, just to finish the sort of, like, emotional dissociation. Hey, Yugs, like a bag of bricks to the eye, Yugs. All right, cool. All right, we've
we've
removed all sincerity. We've removed all vulnerability now.
Well, then I suppose there's only one thing left to ask, Rem. Any chance you'd want to sit down and watch a little bit more Bloom Into You with me?
I would, Sean. Yes, I would.
Fantastic. With that, thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed Remington bearing his chest and other unmentionables, then please head on over to Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, and leave us a review. It helps us so much. You guys have no idea how amazingly impactful your reviews are, and we do read every single one of them. And if you'd like to support us in another facet entirely, we do have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/animeoutofcontext, where we will be playing a lot of variety content, including getting very angry at each other for really childish, stupid reasons, because, you know, we're adults. That's how we should handle our issues, is by angrily playing video games at each other.
Exactly.
And if you'd like to support us even more directly, more than the Twitch, more than the reviews, then you can head on over to patreon.com/animeoutofcontext, where you can gain access to all kinds of lovely bonus content, including having the opportunity to have Rem horribly butcher your name. So, Rem, who are we thanking this week?
As always, I'd like to send our regards to our bland bitch protagonists, as well as our magical girls, who we really appreciate. But moving on, we get to the yandere waifus, who are making us look deep within ourselves to the emotional truths we didn't want to face. And on that list, we have Xerix, Walk Me Home Gently, Try to collab with the podcast, Are We There Yet? Trenton Towers, Totally God, The World Shall Know Propane, Sorry Mother, Scissorum, Silent Secondary, Sean Arrogay Week 8, Dandy Boy Adventures Like Mother 3 But Porn, Scoopy Loopy Boopy Doopy Hoopy Goopy Oopy, Sarah Birch, Sammy Pritchard, Salty Pretzel, Sequoia Faye, Remington Connoisseur of Anime Titties, Remington Merrill, Rem You Better Respect Banana Fish, Rem My Dog Died Let's Go! If you're wondering why I'm not reacting to this one, next week. The order is fucked. You'll get your reaction next week. Rem You Failed the Name Pronunciation Test, Rem Wants to Be a Weiss Schwartzmeister, Redneck Weeb, Ready to Be Isekai'd, Rabid Valor. No, I can't possibly say this name on the podcast. I'd rather watch every episode of Conception than read this name. Nami's favorite swimsuit is a One Piece. Please help me. Matthew, my brother, unironically likes SAO drum. Matt, I swear that's not my Joey Wheeler Dakimakura G. Mockchop 92. Mauna Pug Tears. Luke Offenberger. Lonely Geek 23. Let Sean pick the next Tears thing. He's gonna refuse this week just like he refused next week. Just Squill.
Time is a little fucked for us, isn't it?
Juan Jaritos, Jax, Jack of Spades, I'm Die Thank You Forever, Ichigo Sip 015, Hey Daddy, did you hear about Rem? He's so poggers, Hanakawa, Glenn Michael Dolan, Ghostly Bishi, I need more Joey Wheeler in my life, Fuck of Love Foxen Boy, Fern the Sandwich Man, Farmer Weeb Wants and Joey Wheeler, Hey Yugs, if you really are a man, you should grab the girl you love and run, Erica P, Dicks are so cute, OMG, when you hold one in your hand and it starts switching, it's like it's nuzzling you,
God,
Dark with Light.
That still hurts.
Yep, Darkstorm713, Danny Morabito, Corey Des69, Shy 900, Christian Crawford, Cheese Walrus, Baby Bun, Ariel Bird, Apostle of the Church of Remington, Anime Duck, Andrew Sinclair, Andrew Rauke, Elise Howard, Alexa Hickman, Alexander Nazi Insenio, and Albert Avila. Thank you guys so much. We move on. We reach the Boy Wizard tier, hanging out at Hogwarts. And now we're gonna sort of make an acrostic. So we're gonna take all the letters of Harry's name, and his middle name, because we'll need it. So Harry James Potter. Every letter, and everyone will get something from their letter.
My God.
To make it more interesting,
Can you? Can you? I don't know if you can.
well, great news to some of you, bad news to others. Wolf, you have the letter H, and for that you get Hey Yugs!
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Richard Whittington, you get the letter A, so you get Hey Yugs!
No.
Rare Country Roads is the best Ghibli movie. Fight me, Kumiko. You get the first R, which is Rutro Yugs.
Oh, I hate this. I hate this. This is awful.
Bilkster, the Simpo Gear advocate, you get the second R, which is Rock on, Yugs!
God.
MT the Poet, I'm so sorry to everyone. MT the Poet, you get the Y, which is Yugs!
This is so shameful.
I'm so
We're looping back to the first part of this episode.
I'm so sorry. Miguel De Leon, you get the J from his middle name, and for that you're gonna get just joking, Yugs, no homo.
Rem, this is a Pride Month episode.
Well, yeah, but Joey isn't gay, and he doesn't want to pretend that he is. He's obviously an ally, though. This is a fucking mess. That was Miguel, right?
Yep.
Kirigiri is best girl, and Remington needs to know this. You get the A in James, which is going to get Yugs. It's a VTuber reference somehow. Kazumurako, you're getting the M in James, which is going to stand for my God, Yugs. It would be so much better if this were funny. I live in Ogden. Yes, that one. You get the E in James, which is the existential crisis I'm facing right now, Yugs. I call Boner Daddy. You get the S, which stands for suffering succotash, Yugs. Anada is a ball of sunshine. You get the P in Potter, which is piss on my bricks and throw them in my eyes, Yugs.
Oh, Rem! People pay money for this.
I'm so sorry. That was Hinata as a Paul Sunshine, I think. Enrique Perez Torres, you get the O in Potter, which is, oh my God, Yugs, my sanity is quickly degrading. DJ Hires or Hears, you get the first T, which is
Rem, think very carefully.
Tony the Tiger thinks they're great, Yugs.
Oh, God.
Dedicated Sadist, you get the second T, which is Tony the Tiger was actually lying, Yugs.
You can't bring Tony the Tiger twice in a row.
This is the single worst.
I'm gonna be
I've
worried he's
ever
gonna show up
done.
a third time because the rule of three of comedy is a thing.
Declan Des 13707 Zaharia, you get the E, which is gonna be everyone loves inappropriate Joey Wheeler, right, Yugs? And last but not least, we have Darth Pikachu, who gets the final R. And you are going to get Ruh-roh, Raggy. You thought it was gonna be Tony the Tiger, but it's Scooby-Doo again, Yugs.
This is
So sorry. It's the worst.
this is so bad. This is so
All right.
bad.
Hey, but now we move on to the Chef No Musco tier. The Corey in the house. Hell yeah. Oh, fuck. I don't know, Sean. I'm fucked. Give them something interesting.
Give them something interesting. Give them
Yeah, I don't
something
know.
interesting. After
don't
that,
know.
after that, you're gonna toss it to me?
Yeah, but this one doesn't have to be Harry Potter related. It can be anything. If it can relate to the episode, like flowers or like wholesome lesbian romances. I don't know, dude.
Let me just
brain
reach
with the
into my
Yu-Gi-Oh
deep
stuff.
sack of wholesome lesbian romances, and I will toss it out their way. What the fuck are you talking about, Remington? What the fuck? Okay, sure. We need something good and wholesome. Let's see. Nice, wholesome. Shoujo. Let's see. Remington, give everybody a...
Oh, no, okay, I figured it out. I know what I'm gonna do.
Okay, good, because I was struggling. I was rapidly Googling shit.
All right, so for the Chef no Musco Cory in the house tier, I've come up with this immediately. There was
he's
no
gonna keep all
faffing about...
that shit in, don't you?
He shouldn't.
He shouldn't, but he's probably gonna.
So you guys are all going to get fragments of poems by the great Sappho, who, you know, was totally straight, obviously. How could anybody mistake it otherwise? So Zachary Shirley is open all 8 inner gates and 7 heavenly breaths unless there's a revisit to Haikyuu. Well, Shirley, and you know what? It's gonna be easier to give you guys fragments than whole poems due to the page I'm on. So that's what you're gonna get. Shirley, you are getting the fragment. Come now, luxuriant graces and beautiful haired muses. Absolutely lovely. Uncreative Cretan, you are going to get, oh, weep for Adonis. So weep for him, Uncreative Cretan. Silicon Spectre, you get Eros, giver of pain. The emotional truths, the love, yet the internal pain. Peter Maciel, you are going to get, honestly, I wish I were dead. And last but not least, my dear old mum is going to get the fragment. I have to be careful with this one. But come, dear companions, for day is near.
Okay.
And there we go.
Okay.
Some of the lovely poetic fragments of Sappho.
Now that I am about 2 shots into the Patreon,
If you guys would like to contact us, whether that's for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, tweet us at AnimeConPod, email us at animeoutacontext@gmail.com, subject heading AUGS. I'm so sorry.
Don't do that.
I'm so sorry.
Don't listen.
Sean, end this episode.
Yeah.
End our misery, please.
I'm going to put you out of your misery right now. Let's go behind the convenient shed that we have on our school property. And with that, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. We love you very much. Happy Pride Month. And as always, don't fuck your sister.
I'm down to fuck Joe Rogan, but also I still don't think I love you.
If you want to seduce me or trick me into your suspicious white van, just show up with Japanese schoolgirl lesbians, and I think that'll work.
Why does every Japanese high school have a weird-ass Joe Rogan